Hello, wine lover. Thank you so much for supporting Saint and Second in Long Beach. We're proud to bring to you one of the most incredible hidden gems in all of Champagne. I'll be your host for the next few minutes. I'm Philippe Andre. I'm the U.S. ambassador for Charles Heidsieck Champagne, and I'm here to tell you about this very special bottle that you have in your hands, the Brut Reserve by Charles Heidsieck. This is a non-vintage champagne. Non-vintage meaning that we have multiple vintages that are blended into the bottle, and then we add yeast, and then we add sugar, and then it gives us the carbon dioxide result of carbonation. So that's how we make champagne in our region. By law, it has to be done that way in this bottle. There are a few rules in the region that tell us how minimum the amount of time we're able to do this. We at Charles, we like to say we're overachievers. So if you look on the back label, you're gonna see the time that it took us to make your bottle with the yeast in the bottle. So that gives you an understanding of how much patience we have in our cellar, but more importantly, the expression that you're gonna see in your glass. Now, Charles Heidsieck was founded by a young gentleman. He was 29, back in 1851, and he comes from a long lineage of champagne house owners, but he realized he wanted to do something on his own. So as a young entrepreneur, he reached out to his family, he reached out to family friends, and he fundraised, and he created his own brand, Charles Heidsieck. So he knew that he wanted to grow the business, but he also needed to find some customers. And more importantly, he loved to travel and hunt. So as anyone would say, go west, young man. Charles himself went west, all the way from Champagne to the United States. He came here in 1852. Now, that's a long ways away, but back then, this was a new exciting territory for him, and he loved to explore the U.S. He spent about 10 years in his lifetime traveling through the U.S., and we're honored to have this tradition to this day of being the first champagne house to really be here on the ground in the United States. Now, Charles was 29 when he started his winery, but there were two key things that he did in his lifetime that lets us still continue the winemaking that we do to this day. Now, our winery is located in a historic town called Reims. It's spelled like Reims, but it's pronounced Reims. And it's an hour outside of Paris by train, not too far. So next time you guys are in Paris, hit your boy up. We'll make sure that you get an invite. In this historic town, there are these beautiful caves that were dug out by the Romans 2,000 years ago. Now, Charles, being a very smart guy, he realized that his wines, he wanted them to be aged for a long time. However, back then, storage space and refrigeration was something that was not really possible. Now, to age the wines perfectly, he needed a space that was temperature controlled and the right amount of space to store his wines for many years. And he turned to the city of Reims and asked if he could purchase some of this property underground. Now, this became the evolution of the winery and really put us on our path. This was 1867, and he purchased 5 miles of these caves under the city for us to have to store our wines. It's a historic place. It's actually now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's essentially a giant chalk deposit from millennia ago of seashells and oyster beds, basically glaciers, that this chalk was a precious material for the Romans to use for sculptures. So they dug it out by hand. And to this day, we're one of 5 wineries that actually have a type of cellar like this. So we're really proud to be able to use this for our winery. One of the great things about us that we wanted to celebrate is we have a very particular hallway in our cellar that we actually asked an artist to take the angles of the hallway and create a bottle shape. So you'll see Charles Heidsieck has a very unique bottle shape. This is a mere spitting image of that hallway. The ceiling in that hallway is about 90 feet tall. So we're 120 feet below ground, the city of Reims, historic place. Most important thing is we're not open to the public. As I was saying, you gotta call me if you wanna visit. Now, not being open to the public is really important because these bottles get a chance to really rest at their leisure and more importantly in a perfect environment. No noise, no sunlight, perfect temperature, 9 degrees Celsius year round. It's absolutely phenomenal place. The bottles, because they are aged for so long, you get this creamy texture. And I'll get to really what the star of the show here is the wine. So I'm gonna open the bottle real quick to show you guys how we get it done. So we have a pull tab here at the top. I recommend you guys take that off. And for me, the most important thing with champagne is being safe and being in control. So once we have the foil off, we have the cage. So I'm gonna keep my thumb on top of the cage at all times. I'm gonna pull that tab down. I'm gonna twist it counterclockwise here. Make sure that we get a nice little loosey space here in between the cage and the neck of the bottle. And then I'm gonna take my other hand and put it on the bottom of the bottle. Now I'm gonna take my right hand, or my dominant hand, and I'm gonna take my finger, my index finger, around the cork, extremely tight. So I'm holding onto the cork as hard as I can, and I'm gonna twist the bottom of the bottle. That way, the cork is gonna stay with my hand, and the bottle will not go anywhere. And at a 45-degree angle, we're gonna twist. And that puts the pressure of the wine in a stronger, more alleviated space. And that way, when we open this bottle, it will be nice and silent. We're not gonna scare anybody. We're not gonna spill any wine, most importantly, because most of the wine should go in our glass. So now you've opened your bottle successfully. Congratulations, that's the first step. I'd say even before that, make sure your bottle is chilled. As you can see here, you can see a nice little frostiness. We recommend around 50 degrees. We don't like our wines to be too cold. So I would say, if you put it in the fridge, which is usually around 40 degrees, take it out a little bit and let it kind of warm up. And the reason being is these wines are so decadent and rich. And we've aged them for so long for the perfect amount of experience. And if it's too cold, it may be difficult for you to get all the nuance. Now, let's drink some wine. I'm using a Burgundy glass. I like this glass because it really gives me a chance to smell everything. Any type of glass that you like to use as champagne is just fine by me. I would recommend trying a different glass, maybe a little bit larger, just so you can really get a chance to smell everything. So as you can see, really beautiful texture. The bubbles are there. And look at that golden color. Nectar of the gods, as we say. All right, so the Brut Reserve, what you have in front of you. This is a real magical expression that we're able to do at our house. Not many other wineries in our region are able to do. And because of that cellar that I was telling you about, we're able to age our wines for 10, 15 years before they go in the bottle. So the Brut Reserve being our flagship wine, this is about 70% of our total production. We make about 70,000 cases annually, which is really a fraction compared to some of our neighbors. Now that space that I was telling you about, 5 miles, it seems like a lot, but it's actually really small compared to how much wine we make every year. And our mentality at the winery is we put 3 bottles in the cellar for every 1 that we take out. So think about that a little bit and just realize that we are really taking the time to age these wines until they're ready to be drank. Now, part of that process starts with aging before they go in the bottle, as I was saying. About half your bottle are wines that have been aged for a minimum of 10 years, which is mind-boggling. Most wineries are using about 10%, maybe 15 max, but we're using almost 50% reserve wine. So you have a real unique expression on your hands. So you get immediately this bright fruit component to it. I think yellow fruits, some plum, yellow plum, definitely a little more citrus, apple, orchard fruit for sure. And then there's the baking spice and the cream, a little bit of creme brulee at the end. And that is really indicative of the house style of Charles. We only use the first pressings of the grapes. Everything is hand harvested by law. And the reason we're doing this is because, again, we're aging these wines for such a long time. They age in stainless steel tank, and then they're blended and put in bottle, and then they go again to the cellar for another aging portion with the yeast and the sugar to give us our bubbles. So the expression is very direct. You have beautiful acidity, the texture is fuzzy, the vibrancy is there, and it's everything that we're looking for in a glass of champagne. Again, our town that we're from is called Reims, and really this is the heart and soul and historic town of the region. To see this wine being kind of a blend of old and new together really shows you what this region can do and why we absolutely adore champagne. So the final breakdown here of the grapes that are in your bottle, we have 20% Pinot Meunier, that's red. We have 40% Pinot Noir, also red. And then we have 40% Chardonnay. That's our white grape. Now, why is this not red? Well, the reason is because we are pressing the grapes, they don't touch the skins, and we just get the juice and the pulp. And that's what we're doing with this wine. Now, when we do the harvest, we are deciding on which wines go into the reserve portion of our cellar and which wines are used for the current base vintage of that year. And that's one of the hardest things our chef de cave has to do. Aside from choosing when to harvest, that choice of him selecting wines for the reserve portion is incredible. Just to give you a rough estimate, our chef de cave makes about 280 different wines every year. And the reason being is that not every wine will age the same way. It may be from the same plot of land, but vineyard to vineyard or row to row in that land may be very different. So 280 wines is what he's making every year with his team. And again, we whittle it down and create a plan, just like a chef would in the kitchen. For instance, if he's making his dish, he needs to have all his ingredients. But obviously the variable is sometimes those ingredients taste a little bit differently. And so it's really watching the magical happen when you have this chef de cave, which is what we call winemakers in the Champagne region. And now I'm getting a little bit more richness, the decadence on the back end, and that's those reserve wines that I was telling you about. So just a quick rough draft. The Brut Reserve is a really, really incredible value here that most people in Champagne don't really tell their friends about because they try to keep it for themselves. What's special about our wine is because we're using the aged wine, it takes us on average 22 years to make one bottle of Charles Heidsieck. So very, very unique style of winemaking, obviously from a historic region. I'm really proud to share that with you guys. Thank you so much for supporting a local restaurant. Really excited to have these wines in your glass, in your cellar. And they just keep opening up. So let it get some air, enjoy it today, maybe have a little bit tomorrow if you can hold on to it. But these are meant to be shared. And that's the beauty of Champagne here in your glass. I can't stop smiling. It's one of those wines that no matter what's going on, it really is a treat. And so I'm so honored to be able to represent these wines and excited to have them in your glass. Yeah. So thank you so much again for your support. Can't wait to hear more about how you guys enjoyed the wine. Thank you so much for all the love, and hopefully we'll see you guys very soon. Santé.